Our first study for today is about research showing the benefits of workplace conflict in some organizations. And this study was interesting. It kind of looked at the relationship between workplace conflict, job satisfaction, and employee performance. But it functioned, I would say, more as like a case study of an individual of a university in this case, rather than like an actual study, although it's, I'm sure, beneficial to them. As I mentioned, it's this looking at this relationship, and it's specifically at Benazir Bhutto Shahid University in Lyari and in Karachi, Pakistan. And so the methods they used were, they had a total of 304 participants. I'm not sure what this is outdated. Huh. Well, they had like 100, I think it was actually 109 participants. And they had it from, it was about equally split between men and women across the university. And they just sent this survey out that had measures workplace conflict, job satisfaction, and employee performance, and then just basic demographic questions, just to kind of look at what the perception of each of these elements were at this university. And what they found was that it, kind of contrary to a lot of research, was that there's a moderately positive relationship between workplace conflict and job satisfaction, and the same relationship is found with workplace conflict and employee performance. And the reasoning that they kind of put to this was that because this university is a public government-owned university in Pakistan, a lot of the employees kind of view workplace conflict as they're all involved in unions, and they believe that workplace conflict can help provide kind of basic rights and contribute to the well-being of employees. So when filling out the survey, likely the way they took it was that, well, workplace conflict is a good thing, and it leads to more job satisfaction and employee performance because we're getting what we need. We're having our needs met. And so again, this is kind of functions more as a case study than it's contrary to a lot of what research typically says, which shows this inverted relationship between workplace conflict and job satisfaction. But this does, as a key takeaway, kind of show that workplace conflict, it should be taken into context into each organization. And for some, workplace conflict might represent the ability to challenge organizational norms and provide employees with a better work experience. And so that's just a basic rundown of this study.
That's interesting. So I mean, I think it kind of speaks to the idea of framing, of like how you view conflict, how you frame conflict. And it seems like they view conflict in a more optimistic way, like, hey, this is surfacing things we need to work on. So it's good that we're having conflict. You know, and it's like if they're conflict avoidant, they probably have low satisfaction, and that's true too, that we see across the...
Yeah, and I wonder.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I wonder if it would look different if they specified like interpersonal conflict or relational conflict, like if they somehow made the measures more variables more specific that way. I don't know what exactly they looked like, but I wonder if that would deviate the results at all.
Yeah, I like to think that this is a notion of like we're moving in the right direction, because this is kind of what we want as practitioners too, to reframe conflict and look at it as an opportunity for growth and change, and, you know, increasing the well-being of others, you know, all of that. So it's great. It clearly shines a light on the culture and the culture of this university and how people are trained to view conflict. So I think that's, like I said, I'm hoping this is a point in the right direction, that like more studies will start to show this positive relationship instead of the, you know, the opposite. So
I would think that this would include proper conflict management, though, because an increase of conflict alone without proper management of it is not, I can't imagine that leading to job satisfaction. But I'm assuming that they're not a conflict avoidant culture, so they welcome things to get surfaced and then they can sort of properly deal with them.
Work through it. Yeah.
I was thinking that, Jeremy, because it helps rights and contributes to well-being, but it doesn't if it's if it's not being managed well.
Well, I think that's where some of the formal structure of the union relationship here does make somewhat of a difference, because I don't know that, like, I feel like we've seen other studies or in different case studies in different companies where that's not the perception. And it's because maybe they don't have this formal setting for conflict. I'm not necessarily endorsing the union method here, but in terms of this specific case study, it seems to play a role in that too.
Yeah, they have like a proper, it's almost like they probably have a conflict management systems designed of some sort, where there's a channel for this. They feel their voice is getting heard, so that there's some forum for them to voice. So maybe that's the way they're framing conflict. It's like, I'm having conflict and I can voice it and I can get heard and someone can do something about it.
Yeah, you're right. I think it absolutely boils down to what is the conflict management procedure? How do we treat it? This actually makes me think of, just yesterday I had a conversation with a veterinarian who works for the state, and supervises a lot of others, and we were just talking about a lot of the conflict that exists. And as state employees, like they're part of a union, so they have their own kind of mechanisms for working through conflict. But this doctor was actually speaking to kind of how it's not, while they have these systems and structures in place, it's not really transformative or effective because of their conflict management procedure and like what they're doing. So yes, it's important to have the systems and structures in place. Unions probably can be very good for some, but it just all depends on that culture of how you're treating conflict.